Y'all know what time it is. It is the one and only In the Scope podcast with your boy, Joshua M Hicks, senior writer for War Media. You can follow me on the Instagram and the Twitter, Josh M Hicks Media. I got a special guest. She's been on my show before. She decided to graciously come back and grace us with her presence. She is a storyteller, producer. She's been on all types of platforms. ESPN to Undefeated, FIBA, Sports Illustrated, you name it. And nowadays, I don't know what in her freelance realm, she's been killing it. Obviously, over here taking pictures and being at all these Puma events with Jalen and Jacoby. I mean, I wish I could just hop on the bandwagon with that too. But she's doing big things in the whole NBA sports media realm. I want you guys to welcome Greydy Diaz. Greydy, how are you doing?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So excited to be back on. I know we last talked maybe during the summer, not really sure, but it's definitely good to reconnect with you and be back on. But I'm doing well. Thank you so much for asking.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad to have you back on the show because we got a lot of interesting things to talk about, especially when it comes to the East Coast. I know you've been going, you living out there, you've been covering a few teams here and there regarding the NBA. And there's a lot of different storylines that have come to play. And I want to start off briefly with the Brooklyn Nets. I know you've been covering some Nets home games here and there. So you've seen it in person. And of course, I wondered, before I jump in though, did you see my Bulls coming to New York and just sweep everybody? Did you just see my?
Yes, I did. I can't say I expected that, but the fact that they did that, they really, I think, made a statement.
Okay, well, thank you for that because we definitely made a statement. We have arrived. Chicago basketball is back.
Yes.
So I have to, I gotta put that out there a little bit. Shout out to my Bulls team. But at the same time, like I said, we'll go with the Nets. There's been so much going on that's within the offseason going into now. You don't know what's gonna happen with Kyrie Irving. Kevin Durant's getting harassed by the media, and he's saying, "Okay, look, I want to play 48 minutes. Leave me alone." From what you've seen so far this season, what's really been your analysis of the makeup of this Brooklyn Nets team currently constructed?
Obviously, it stinks that they don't have Kyrie, and I feel like Kyrie is a huge part of that team. But I feel like they've done well with the pieces that they have. I think the Brooklyn Nets are a very talented team with DeAndre, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Patty Mills. I mean, I feel like they have so much depth, but I think that there's obviously a lot of star power on that team. And I feel like at times maybe they don't mesh as well as you want them to, but again, they're also used to being superstars, right? So I think, I've been to about 5 or 6 games this season, and I think most of those games have been wins that I've gone to. But honestly, I think the Brooklyn Nets are holding their own. But again, the season is still very young. I like to tell people we're only going into week 8. So the season is so young and anything could happen. I feel like, just going into this season, everybody was talking about Brooklyn, and Lakers, right? So I think Golden State is showing us that maybe we're wrong, right? But at the same time, on the East Coast, who knows if we're totally right with Brooklyn too, you know what I mean? So I think that this season is playing out pretty interestingly. But again, I'm just always trying to remind myself and everybody that, again, the season is very young. So much can happen. We're seeing so many injuries, so much going on with the health and safety protocols. And it's just like, my goodness, I wish, we could turn off these injuries, as people say online, but it's interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is, especially when you consider, like you said, the missing of Kyrie Irving. I think Kyrie Irving is a very intricate piece to helping the Nets really get to that championship in the finals. And a friend of mine, good big brother mentor of mine, Brandon Scooby Robinson, dropped a exclusive article this week regarding Kyrie Irving's status. And he's saying apparently he's looking at a plant-free or a plant-based vaccine. I didn't even know that was a real thing.
I had no idea either. And I was actually reading a little bit up on it yesterday. And I guess it's coming from a biotech company and based in Canada that's currently doing trial runs, clinical runs. So, or clinical trials rather. So that's interesting. Had no idea, this whole plant-based vegan stuff is a whole new world for so many of us. But the fact that, there could be a plant-based vaccine is just like, it's mind-blowing to me. But I mean, if that means he might come back, cool. I think so many of us would love to see Kyrie back in the league. We want to see him hoop. He's a hooper. So I mean, again, if that means he comes back, then it is what it is. Plant-based, rock on.
I feel you. But it just intrigues me with Kyrie as a person. That just shows how really in-depth of a person that he really is. Because I feel like he comes off as very misunderstood sometimes because he is, even though he's very intelligent, he moves to his own too, to toot of his own horn.
Absolutely.
And I just feel like I feel like if people really took the time to understand what he truly is trying to do, even though you may not always agree with it, you got to give respect where it's due, especially since he has put his money where his mouth is.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, especially, as I cover the WNBA and the amount of money that he has put into WNBA players and supporting them, whether it's helping, with off-season costs and stuff like that, and helping with salaries. He has been such an advocate for others in general and helping his community and helping, causes that he cares about. So, and just helping people. So I think that, on a personal level, like I think Kyrie is I think he's a good person, and just for a lot of the stuff that he's done. And again, none of us really know him, right? We're kind of just talking from the outside. So I feel like at the end of the day, I'm one of four. I'm one of four kids and we're all so different, right? But you still have love for your siblings. And at the end of the day, the NBA is a brotherhood. So I know a lot of players absolutely have love for Kyrie, and regardless of what his decision is. But you got to take people for who they are. And I don't know what else to say,
I feel you. And that's very true. You definitely have to do that. But it's interesting with Brooklyn because they brought in James Harden, and when they brought in James Harden, they was imagining this big three that's going to take them to the promised land, right? Past this season, James Harden really is a question mark because Kyrie Irving hasn't fully committed, obviously because of his situation. Who knows what's going to come out of that? Kevin Durant has resigned this past offseason with his extension, so we know he's staying. But James Harden has become openly public about, kind of want to see if I want to test the waters a little bit. And he's never done that before in any of his off seasons. So he's looking at doing that. And with the way he's been playing on the court recently, he's been having an imbalance with that as well, saying that he's still trying to figure out the ups and downs of it. What do you make of James Harden and how his play right now how does that fit into what Brooklyn really needs right now to get to that next level, considering your really main superstar outside of James Harden's caliber is Kevin Durant?
Correct. I mean, I think not having James Harden would be a huge loss. I mean, just what I think yesterday when they played the Rockets, he had a double-double. He had 25 and 11, I believe. So I think that, yeah, he might not be as consistent as you want him to be, but I think he still produces. So I feel like more than anything, they need to kind of figure out a way to work better together. And I hope it can work out, but if it doesn't, then he'll be somewhere else, right? That he fits in to, a different system. But honestly, I think that maybe James Harden is still kind of figuring it out. Again, not having Kyrie and having, some new players on that team, it's an adjustment, right? I think, and even if he goes somewhere else, it will be another adjustment. So I think it's just finding the right place for him. on the Brooklyn Nets and making sure that kind of everybody is in line with each other, that there's that chemistry.
I kind of was like, okay, James, when you came up with that statement, I'm like, okay, you're one superstar down. All you have to do is just go back to being James Harden of old. But is it really that simple though? Like, I don't know if it's really that simple considering what the makeup of James Harden is. He's a scorer, anywhere on the court.
Dribbles a lot.
Yes, dribbles a lot.
Sometimes I'm like, bruh, give it up, man. Like, pass it. I want to see more movement. And I feel like sometimes when you're dribbling so much, like and you're not going anywhere. It's just like, to me, it can be wasted dribbles. I remember growing up, my basketball coach saying, you cannot dribble unless you're going somewhere, and you only get like 2 dribbles and that's it. Pass the rock. Let's keep emotion. Let's keep this moving. And I feel like at times he kind of slows them down when he's just, doing all his stuff. Like, nah, like, let's see who's open. It's not always about you. So I think he needs to figure out his place, and they kind of, I don't know, the whole Nets squad kind of needs to figure stuff out together.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Everybody listening right now, you are listening to the one and only Greydy Diaz. Greydy, let's transition to a team that you're really more familiar with, closer to the East Coast and home, is the Washington Wizards.
Yes.
I'm not going to lie. They shocked the hell out of me.
Everybody, they shocked me.
They shocked me so up, but they're doing well and at the top of the standings in the Eastern Conference. And they've been doing most of it without Bradley Beal being Bradley Beal.
Yeah, honestly, I think that this year we've seen Bradley have a bit more help. So, not everything has to go through him. I think a lot of us were very like, oh, how is this season going to play out? Because they have so many new players, right? You have Kyle Kuzma, Montrez, you have Spencer Dinwiddie, Rui has been out this whole season. Thomas Bryant has been out this whole season with his injury. So it almost feels like a brand new team, because it kind of is, right? So again, that strong start shocked everybody, and seeing them in the number 1 spot, Eastern Conference, we were like, what? This has not happened. In the 4 seasons that I've covered the Wizards, like, it was never like that. So I know that they're kind of in a rut right now. They've lost, or actually they won last night's game against Detroit with Kyle Kuzma scoring, basically a game winner, but in overtime. But prior to last night's game, they had lost like quite a few games, and I think that right now the Wizards aren't playing like they played at the start. I think something's going on. I don't know what's going on, but I think that there's a lot of potential with them. I feel like they're super talented. I feel like they work well together. But I feel like there's definitely a lot of room for improvement right now. And I think, again, the season, as I said before, is very young. So they have time to figure stuff out. But I do think that their future is super promising based off of how they were able to come out. And, it's okay that they have a little bit of a hiccup right now. They've lost, I don't know, maybe 8 of their last 13 or 14 games, something like that, or not 8. I don't know. I don't remember right now off the top of my head, but they haven't, their past like 10 game stretch hasn't been that great. So I think that, we're kind of giving them a little grace right now.
I feel you. I mean, the Bulls fans, we've been given all types of grace all these years in this Garpax era, and we finally just had enough of it. So I'm glad that we, I totally understand with that. But I really got to give shout outs and credits to Wes Unseld Jr., man, the new head coach of that team. I mean, 'cause obviously he came into a really unfamiliar situation. You didn't know, they dealt John Wall in that offseason. They committed to Brad, and, once they made that trade, and they traded Russ too, and also, so he didn't really know what he had. But for them to put it all together and work with him, like you said, it's basically a new team. Yes. Wes Unseld does deserve a lot of credit for this as well, to be able to work with these guys and create a structure that currently works for them to make them at the top of the East, even though it is still early season. That's a bright sign to see, considering it's a new coach and a completely revamped roster from last year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I think it's nice to see Bradley Beal having help. And him not having to go out and score 30 every single night. Like that's a lot to put the team on your back every single night, day in and day out, which is what he's been doing these past seasons, right? So it's really nice that he has help. I know that he's kind of had an off shooting season so far, but I'm sure he'll hit his stride soon. Although the other night he did have like 34 points. So yeah, and I think it's really nice to see Bradley Beal finally have help. Maybe he'll sign, an extension with the Wizards. Who knows? It sounds like he's going to kind of get a better feel of how things are going before he makes that huge decision.
And that's what I was going to transition to next, because I know people have been adamant about Bradley Beal leaving Washington. And
I know.
And he's been the loyal guy. He's been playing that Damian Lillard type of role where, I respect the franchise. They respected me. This is home for me. So I want to stay. And he's signed multiple extensions throughout his career. But, for him to come out this go around and say, you know what, we'll see. That's a different approach from even last year where he was like, no, this is home. I don't want to be traded. I don't want to go anywhere else. This is where I want to stay. In your opinion, since you've been around the team, what potentially could have caused this change of heart, where he's not fully saying, I want to leave, but he is saying, I kind of want to keep my options open right now?
Honestly, I think Bradley Beal is an intelligent person. And I think it's a huge decision, right? And I feel like you have to, you're talking about your future. And at the end of the day, I think every NBA player needs to be selfish when you think about your future, because it's your future. And at the end of the day, the NBA is a business, right? And they will always operate as a business. So I'm all for players doing whatever's best for themselves. And I think it's a smart thing for Bradley to not commit so soon and actually take his time. At the end of the day, like, I don't know what has changed, but I mean, Bradley, I think he's like 28 years old. He's really starting to think about his future and, his time left in the league. I'm sure he has still a long career, but maybe he wants to win a chip, and maybe he's really contemplating, can I win a championship with DC or not? So, because I think, that's something every player wants to win a championship, right? But at the end of the day, like, if he stays, he'll have to just trust, that Wizards process. But honestly, I can't say that I know what has changed, but I think honestly, like, with time and with age, you become a little wiser. With experience, you become a little wiser. So I think Bradley Beal is taking, the smart route and actually thinking about his future, and taking that time and taking as much time as he needs. I think that, again, when it comes to your future, you really need to sit down and think about it. I mean, it's a lot of money on the table, right? Like, ooh, it's a lot of money.
I could use some of that change.
Right? It's a lot of money, but he also has made a lot of money in his career, right? So it's going to be like it's about like what makes him happy. Is it, the potential to win a championship? Is it the money? Is it DC? Is it the culture? Like, what is going to keep him to stay? So it's a lot of questions that he has to answer himself, and he's the only person that can do it, right?
Yeah, that is true. I feel like listening to the Bradley Beal situation is kind of very similar to Damian Lillard's situation, because they're both loyal guys, loyal to the franchise. They want to stay. Although Bradley Beal has an extension on the table for him if he really wants to take it. Lillard asked for an extension, and then with everything going on over there in Portland, you don't know if he's going to get that or not. And there's all this speculation now about how Damian Lillard, even though he has been vocal about staying in Portland, behind the scenes rumors about how he may want to leave and who he wants to play with and all of that. Like
when it comes to Damian, it's like, I don't know what's true about all these reports about him. I heard this week him wanting to play with Ben Simmons. Like, I have no idea what's going on in Portland. Like, what is going on over there?
I have no idea. I had Sean Hyken on my show, and he lives out of Portland, and covers the Blazers out there. And he even said, like, with all that stuff going on, he really doesn't think Damian's going to go. Okay. But the GM's position is important, considering that, Neil O'Shea was there for the longest. He had a long tenure with the franchise. You got a new head coach in Chauncey Billups. So whoever that guy is, going to be the GM. He has to have a good relationship with not just Damian Lillard, but Chauncey Billups as well to make this thing work, especially considering all the player injuries that they're going through. CJ's out with a collapsed lung,
Oh my gosh, yeah. When I heard that news, I was like, is he okay? Like, what the heck?
Yeah, I don't. That's what everything's so up in the air, but I do believe that, like you said, the older you get, the more wiser you become. I think Damien's probably looking at this situation. I can see him, and I don't blame him, thinking, okay, my right wing man is done. He's out right now. Maybe for the rest of the season, depending on the seriousness of this situation. Got a rookie head coach that I like, but we're doing trash with the roster that's already there. I got a GM. I got a chaotic situation with my front office because they can't even treat people right. Like, I can see him being like, you know what, maybe it is time to jump ship. And I've heard, and rumor has out there that if he does choose to leave, prime place would be New York and the Knicks. That could be a potential opportunity for you East Coast fans.
Who did the Knicks give up?
That's a good question. That is a good question. I don't know, but you never know. Kemba's not working out right now in New York. You don't know if he's one of the. I don't know what's going. I don't know how all that would play out, but it is similar to me as far as the process you got to take really to evaluate a situation for a loyal guy, especially for so many years. Both players have had bad reps in the media regarding staying with franchises that people deserve. Should be better. They should be in better situations. And even though I agree with that, you can't knock loyalty. You can't knock. No, you can't. You can't knock loyalty and wanting to stay. Like, they wanted to stay with their franchises to win championships with them. So, in a league where a lot of that is kind of non-existent, I can't blame them for that.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Everybody listening right now, you are listening to the one and only storyteller, producer, all the above, you name it, Greydy Diaz. Greydy, before we, jump ship on out of here, I gotta give you some time to talk about your Celtics, because what's going on right there. I don't know what's going on in Boston right now.
Listen, I know we have a new coach, so it's a lot of, to me, it feels like the start of a rebuild. And, of course, we don't have Danny Ainge anymore in the front office. It's Brad Stevens, making decisions now. Celtics are 13-13 right now. Like, they're in the bottom half of the Eastern Conference, standings. And to me, that's just like, I didn't go into this season thinking that the Celtics would win a championship. Let's be honest. I did not. I don't think anybody did, but something's not clicking over there. I don't know if, I hate to say this, but I don't know if it's a JB and JT sort of thing in terms of like offensively. There's something not clicking. I'm not saying personally, I'm saying offensively, something's not clicking as I would like to see. And I know JB has been out, but I just feel like there's something missing. There are a few things missing on that team. I'm still trying to figure out what it is. I think we need a superstar big, like a superstar big, to work with a Jason Tatum and to work with a Jaylen Brown. But I mean, even Jason Tatum isn't having like the best start in terms of like shooting. He's had many off nights that he has spoken publicly about them. But I love the way he played against the Lakers the other night, and that was a great game. And I think anytime you see that Celtics and Lakers matchup, it's a historic rivalry, right? So I think it gives all players a little bit of an extra, push, extra excitement. So you could definitely tell that there was a lot of energy going into that game, a lot of energy during that game. But I don't know, Celtics, they have a lot of restructuring to do. Again, starting off the season at 13-13, like it's not a good start to me. And I get it. There are a few new pieces, new coach. So there's a lot of adjustments to be made. But again, something's not working right now. And I'm just hoping that, as the season goes on, they can kind of either get better or make changes to make sure that the team does get better going down the line, because I do want to see the Celtics win their 18th banner in the next few years. I would love that. In the next 5 years, I would love to see the Celtics, capture that 18th banner. And I feel like they're going to have to make some difficult decisions. But I do hope we keep Jason Tatum forever. That's the one player that I think that is our franchise player. I would love to see him spend his entire career in Boston. Man, he looks great in that green uniform.
I mean, that's ideal. I mean, I would hope, that could happen too. But when you talk about the weird basketball chemistry right now between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, it kind of reminds me, I'm in Chicago, so we talk about the Bulls over here. It reminds me of the D Rose Jimmy Butler dynamic, how it could have worked, but there was so much with Jimmy Butler being on the rise, and Derrick Rose, whose team is it? Is it his team or is it my team? Derrick Rose's team, is it Jimmy Butler's team? All that back and forth, even though they were winning games, and I think eventually they made the playoffs and stuff and things of that sort. They never could get over that hump, and they eventually had to choose one or the other, and they obviously chose Jimmy Butler at that time.
Yeah,
I can see some of that dynamic with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, because Jason Tatum was the guy. He was the guy, still is the guy.
Is the guy, yeah.
But Jaylen Brown has emerged so quickly over the years that chemistry dynamic of how the offensive flow goes, especially when you don't have that point guard that you guys used to have. You used to have Kyrie and used to have Kemba. So, without having that point guard either, that can mess up the balance of the offense as well. And I can see how that dynamic, messes that up a little bit, especially under a head coach who, like I said, Ime Udoka, very well respected coach in the game. But, that's a lot to figure out considering you don't have the elite point guard that you once had. You had to settle for a guy that fumbled $85 million to $100 million in the bag.
No, yeah, it's definitely interesting this season, and to see Dennis kind of find his way. I feel like he's been playing better recently, but I think, just kind of being able to take your mind off of that, because that's such a storyline, right? Going into every game, everybody's like, yo, this man fumbled $85 million. How could he? Blah, blah, blah. Now he's on a $5 million deal, 1-year deal. So I think as long as Schroeder can kind of put that to the side and literally go into every game and just hoop, I think that, the future can still be bright for him. He's still young, and I think he's 28, but is he 28, Dennis?
Might be.
I think he's like 28, yeah. But anyways, I think he's 28. So I think that, I think, again, just having new pieces on the Celtics and just, again, finding that chemistry, finding that way to work together. I know that, Jaylen and Jason, they're scorers, I think something needs to change, especially at the point guard position. I feel like, yeah, Marcus plays, he's a plays on both sides of the court, very, but I just feel like, we need maybe somebody different to be leading, because the point guard is the leader of the team, is they're leading your offense, so I think that there needs to be some sort of change there. And I hate to be the one to say that, but I've seen Marcus play for many years, and yeah, he's been great, but I don't think he's going to bring us to the promised land. Unfortunately, I don't see. I would love for him to prove me wrong, but I don't think I see it right now.
Okay, I understand that. So now that obviously from the East Coast perspective, we talked about the Brooklyn Nets, we talked about the Washington Wizards, we talked about the Boston Celtics, briefly talked about my top tier Bulls. Who do you think as of right now? Obviously, like we thought it was gonna be Brooklyn and LA in the finals. Obviously, it's looking a little sketchy on both ends.
Yeah.
Who do you think could potentially come out of the Eastern Conference with the way things are looking right now?
That's a good question. Let me get a second. Who do you think?
Well, you know me. I'm going Chicago, baby. I'm going with the Bulls.
I think Chicago is making a case for themselves right now. I can't see the Celtics Heat or Bucks, maybe.
No, I can see that. I can see that.
One of those two teams potentially. I don't know if I see Chicago. Chicago would surprise me, I think, a little. They might surprise me a little bit.
Yeah.
But it would be cool to see them make it out the East. But I think could be maybe Bucks, maybe Heat.
I can see that. Yeah, I wouldn't do my other choices.
If the Wizards, nah. You know what? That's wishful thinking. Listen, they at one point they were number one on the East in the Eastern Conference, but I mean, if they just so happen to click at the right time, you never know, right?
You're right.
But you never know, but as of right now, definitely not the Wizards.
So at least we can say though that the Wizards, all three of these teams you talked about, including your Celtics, you think the Celtics are going to make the playoffs? Because I think Washington will. I think
honestly, they might not at this point. My Celtics might not make the playoffs, and that would be so sad. But I could see the Wizards absolutely making the playoffs.
Okay,
sure. Cool. I can see it.
Well, obviously, we'll see how things play out as the season goes along. Because, like you said, it's an early season, so we'll see how this goes. As we get on out of here and transition, what do you got coming up? Because I know, every time I'm looking on Instagram, you're doing something new in the East Coast and making, doing your networking and you're plugging in and everything like that. I see you doing your thing out there. So what do you have next coming up for our audience to pay attention to?
Honestly, I would just say, just make sure you continue to, watch me on Twitter, watch me on Instagram, TikTok, keep up with me there and you'll kind of see what I'm up to. I'm working on some projects right now for 2022. So can't really talk about them just yet, but just know we're working right now. We're working behind the scenes, making sure that next year is on and popping for us. So I would say just keep it locked on my socials. I'm on there all the time, just posting different events that I'm at, just different things that I'm doing. But yeah, so just I'm doing a lot of work behind the scenes right now.
Give everybody your social so that way they can follow all things.
Sure. So all of my social has my first and my last name. So Greydy Diaz. I think on Instagram it's Greydy_Diaz. On Twitter it's just Greydy Diaz. But yeah, you can find me. I have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and that's where I spend most of my time.
Okay, I feel that. Everybody, follow Greydy, all the work that she is doing. And you can also follow me on the Instagram and the Twitter, Josh M Hicks Media, and follow War Media on Instagram and Twitter as well, YouTube, you name it. We're all over the place. You can follow this podcast on Anchor, on all podcast platforms, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, you name it. We're all over the place. Greydy, thank you so much for coming on my show. I really appreciate it. I'm still going to find my way to the East Coast. I'm telling you.
I love it.
It's in the works. So,
okay.
I'm going to find my way out there. When I do, definitely going to hit you up. We got to link up and, just catch up in the real life setting, because, COVID messed up a lot of things. So
man, don't I know it?
So I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to keeping in touch with you and keep doing your thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And we'll talk soon.
For sure.